Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going today?
Well, Tony, as the great American existentialist philosopher Richard Morgan Fleer, perhaps better known to you as Ric Flair, once so eloquently stated, "Woo!"
I'm with you. I echo that woo. And the Big Ten is back. And I don't want to take full credit, but let's just go through this list. I
Not
did
all
say,
heroes wear capes. And are you wearing a cape? No. I mean, what more proof do you need?
let me finish, Tom. I did save the Columbus Crew with a couple of snarky tweets. I believe that was big. Um, and then when Randy Wade posts his photo on the internet of his plane ticket, who I was the first person to talk to him, so I got this ball rolling, and here we are now. And now I got to figure out like my ring size for whatever if it's a Big Ten championship, if it's just an East Division championship, whatever kind of ring there is that the Buckeyes may have this year. I think along with some of the parents, they would also be deserving, I think, of some sort of reward. But also, let's not forget the role that me and by association you have also played in this. So, Tom, a round of applause for us. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to me. Good job. Good effort.
Yeah, I mean, as always, all of my excellence just comes to proximity to you. So, I mean, I think that's my big takeaway here. And
Actually, that's
and
just when you look best, is when you're next to me.
mhm. And I think I also deserve some sort of ring or championship memorabilia for all of the tweets I typed out but deleted about the Christine Brennan column today before I sent the a little bit more, palatable one, I guess. Boy,
Go on.
you have you've had some conversations about the media who just doesn't seem to want to have football happen, and I think we've both been very much like we want it to happen. And it's really not fair to suggest that others don't want it to happen, that they specifically do not want it to happen. And I think by and large that has been true. The people who have been, saying that this is totally impossible are doing it because they have Kevin Warren's hand up their back, moving their mouths, and that's how their Twitter accounts work. But boy howdy, there have been some takes the last couple days. There have Whew. Christine Brennan called this the darkest day in Big Ten history because they were listening to medical experts and doctors and taking precautions that no other league or sport has taken and now are going to play. And that makes them the SEC because I don't know. I have to write stupid things to get people to click on them so that my newspaper, which is getting delivered, presumably, I mean, most of the business model is getting delivered to involuntarily to business travelers in hotels. That it can continue to print. And boy, that was a take. That was quite a take.
I remember, excuse me, I remember other darker days. Like, we don't need to get into that because this is a happy day.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten announces that they are back beginning the weekend of October 23rd, 24th. That's a Friday, Saturday. 8 weeks, and then a ninth week. It's 8 weeks of games, no bye weeks, and then a ninth week of championship weekend, which will also be a Friday and Saturday, according to Barry Alvarez, where it's, the division champs will play, and then the division second place, East second place versus the West second place, East third versus West third, and so on, all the way down to Illinois and Rutgers,
Mm-hmm.
presumably. Who's to
Mm-hmm.
say? Who is to say? But I think it's pretty cool, and you can have a bunch of those games Friday. You can have the rest on Saturday. I also thought it was interesting. Adam Rittenberg said he talked to Barry Alvarez. Alvarez said Fox has discussed some other Friday and Monday possibilities for Fox, which would be interesting because you're not going to compete, I guess, against Monday Night Football with whatever you're airing on Monday nights. I don't know, but maybe airing Big Ten football, even if it's Indiana against Maryland, I'll be watching. So I mean, that's one set of eyeballs, and I'm it's one way to get some people watching those games. I think that's interesting. There's just some different things that they've been able to do to create some. It's unique enough as it is, but then they've also created some neat, unique things instead of all of the dumb, unique things.
Yeah, that Maryland Indiana game versus Monday Night Football is definitely one of those Mountain Dew versus crab juice. Like, whoa, whoa. I'll have the Indiana Maryland, please. Ugh. NFL, oh, no thanks. Yeah, I think if you had any questions, and this is something that I think you've probably heard us frame quite a number of discussions around, just because I've talked to some people who've talked to some people who are TV folks, and Nevada Buck has some pretty significant sources in TV, and we've framed a lot of this discussion around TV. And I think you probably could have said, well, are you just doing that because you talk to TV people? And then you heard the Big Ten teleconference today where they had the medical subcommittee, the scheduling subcommittee, and the TV subcommittee. So yes, friends, television plays a pretty significant portion of this decision. And that's because they pay the Big Ten $50 million. And guess what? The Big Ten's going to do whatever they need to do to get that $50 million this year. So yeah, I think this is very much a let's find some creative solutions thing. And let's make our property as valuable as it possibly can. And if the nice TV people want us to play on Friday nights, then guess what? We're going to play on Friday nights. And this is a year where the high school football regular season is like 3 weeks from being done. Like the high school football regular season is going to be done before the Big Ten season even starts, in Ohio at least. So you're going to have some playoff games, and it's going to be a weird playoff year because everyone can make the playoffs in Ohio this year. So the playoffs are going to drag on a little longer, but you're not going to have the normal concerns about pulling fans away from high school football games to watch the Big Ten game on a Friday night. Because first of all, not that many teams are going to be playing by the time these games are happening. And second of all, not that many fans can go to these games anyway. So now they have something to watch at home. So that's, I think I have been pretty critical of the Big Ten playing on Friday nights in previous years, and probably you've been pretty critical of that at times, and I think that's still a concern moving forward. But this year, for any number of reasons, yep, go ahead. And you know what? I'm not going to complain if there's Big Ten football on my TV this fall. That's just fine. Ready for me to say something crazy?
Okay.
I might even watch some Rutgers games that I'm not getting paid to watch. Think about that for a minute.
I'm going to try not to think about that. But you're right. It's a new era. Greg Schiano. We're all a little bit morbidly curious, right? You want to see what happens. I did find it interesting. So let's lay it out today. Kevin Warren, you mentioned all of the committee people, 5 others talked, Dr. Jim Borchers and Barry Alvarez, and Penn State Athletic Director Sandy Barber, the Northwestern whatchamacallit, and another Northwestern whatchamacallit guy were in there. So that was the first press conference at 10:15 this morning. And then it was Gene Smith, and we were told Kristina Johnson, the president, at 11. I get in that Zoom call. I'm like, hey, what's Ryan Day doing in here? He jumped in as well. And so it's been a pretty hectic day. I did find it interesting, Gene Smith, when, what got things rolling on all of this, where now there is a season. He mentioned, obviously the rapid testing. That's what everybody said. That was the key thing. That's what got all of this possible. The other thing he mentioned is television partners. And so there you go. And they have quite a bit of sway, and now they have a great deal of inventory to provide 9 weeks straight of football. And Tom, I don't know, there's no reason for you to have looked at the AP poll, but I was doing the skeleton for the tip sheet, and you've got Louisiana is ranked. You've got all Miami and Louisville is a game again with 2 ranked teams, and there is room for the Big Ten to make an impact this season, because wow, there are a lot of that. Did not look like a real. This looks like an NCAA football EA Sports simulated season where what is this team? Literally like a Louisiana Lafayette. Why are they ranked number 5? And so that's what's going on right now. And so I think Fox is going to be in the Big Ten Network, of course, because last night, as we're all waiting for everything to happen, they're showing 4 hours of soccer from 2013.
Were the
So
games really good? I bet they were really good.
low scoring affairs, I'm
Mm,
guessing.
mm,
So
mm.
they're interesting in that way. But now with all of these different games coming, so that what's that 9 weeks of what's it, 63 games, if my math is correct. Is that right, Tom?
Yes.
Thank you.
14 divided by 2 is 7 times
Multiplied
9,
by 9.
63.
Perfect.
Yes.
And so that's a lot of inventory for all of the networks involved. And Fox, after I think I tweeted it the other day, like 1 week of Fox airing Big 12 football got the Big Ten back, because Fox is looking at this like, we can't do this anymore. Like Coastal Carolina it just whooped up on Kansas. Now you want us to air, another Kansas game against whomever else. And no, we need Big Ten football. And sure, it's not going to be here for another month, but nobody can live on Big 12 football alone.
Get a vitamin D deficiency. Am I right? Because they don't play defense. See, because it's yeah, and I think the AP ranking is interesting to me because yeah, I think about how crazy it is now. Okay, yeah, Louisiana ranked 23rd or 19th, whatever they are. Think about what the AP rankings are going to look like next spring when it's just the Pac-12 and like the MAC playing. UCLA versus Oregon State, a top 10 clash. Well, there's only 12 teams playing. Well, top 10 clash. Yes. So
Number 7, Buffalo against number 8, Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing when Frank Solich has more top 10 wins than Jim Harbaugh does. That's gonna be the really amazing thing about the next 12 months. And you know what? I'm here for it. Here for it. Yeah, it is gonna be so interesting to see how this all goes, and how, more interesting to me, how quickly everything just gets back to the normal stupid football arguments of, you know, all the people who have come around on certain Nashville-based college football professional antagonists who have been lobbying for the Big Ten to play. How quickly those people come back around the other to where they all began when it becomes, well, I mean, Vanderbilt's played 9 SEC teams this year. That's a better schedule than anyone in the Big Ten has played. And it's going to be so wonderful to have just that stupidity to listen to, as opposed to, the stupidity we've all been living with for the last, yes, gestures vaguely towards the universe. Yes.
Let's stay with this stupidity thing, because
This could be going anywhere. Go
well,
on.
exactly.
Yes.
With the protocols in place, if a player gets is test positive for COVID, they are out 21 days, and like 14 of that is because of the COVID, and then the other 7 is just reacclimating to just basic human movement again. And that's something that they recommended for injuries, illnesses of any kind, where it's just the extra week helps. So there is that. That means basically that you're going to lose that person for 3 weeks. There is also like the 5% positivity rate threshold for the team, which at this point is 7 or 8 players max. Like if you get that many players testing positive, then they're done, and that's a rolling average. So you could lose a game, and there's no time to reschedule it. So where the stupidity aspect comes in is, I'm not so concerned about Ohio State screwing up to miss a game. What I am concerned, Tom, is Michigan State. Not the best rules followers, not the most disciplined program over the forever. And that's like a program where I could see causing somebody to miss a game. And for a program like Ohio State, maybe that needs all of the games they can get in terms of the playoffs, I'll throw Michigan and Penn State in there, throw Wisconsin, whomever. But it's not just your own team that you need to worry about staying healthy. It's your opponent that week as well, because Sparty No could be coming from a lot of different fan bases this season. And it's not just, Michigan State, just as an example,
Mhm.
They could be any team that costs another team a win. And so just keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, that's one potential real failure point here, because I would be honestly very surprised if Ohio State had significant issues with positive tests this year. I think that between the players being motivated, and boy howdy, have we seen that these players are motivated to play this fall, and the steps that Ohio State's going to take that is probably above and beyond what other schools may be willing to take this fall, I think it's very unlikely you have a huge spread of 15, 20 Ohio State players testing positive in a week and being a huge issue. I cannot say the same thing for Rutgers. I cannot say the same thing for Illinois or Michigan State. And there was a tweet that I saw just a few minutes before we hit record that the Purdue AD said that they're going back off of the initial version of the Big Ten schedule and building off of that. So I guess Purdue is now back off the Ohio State schedule. And who else? It has been there have been too many Big Ten schedules this year for me to keep them all straight. But I think they added Purdue and they added
Minnesota,
Wisconsin, and added Minnesota and took Wisconsin off. So I think Wisconsin might be back on. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll find out the schedule in a couple days, is what we've been told. So
yeah, Gene Smith said that schedule will be worked on. They'll start doing it tomorrow, laying it out. I would assume we'll hear something later in the week.
Yeah,
See what it looks like. I'm always looking forward to schedule release days. We get 2 of them this year, which is great.
I mean, really, this is the third one if you really think about it. The schedule release, they scheduled way in advance, but yeah, the second one in like a month, and the third different schedule in a month. I have twice this year deleted a full Big Ten schedule out of my little phone calendar of like, okay, I'm probably gonna go on like Friday afternoon to Sunday morning here, and I don't think I can do it a third time. Like, sorry, once you put this in there, you have to play these games. That's the law. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But
yeah, I have not deleted the ones from my phone, and it still annoys me when I get the the notifications. That's why I don't even know what the last schedule was, because my phone is completely confusing me right now.
Yeah, Ohio State is playing a doubleheader against both Bowling Green and Illinois this week.
I still got Ohio State by 35. Split squads.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how well this happens, because you have the issues with the team. You also have the issues with the community. Now, I thought that was actually potentially smart to tie the community numbers into the football numbers, to use football as a little bit of a carrot to get everyone to maybe not be stupid and not do have parties. I do wonder, the first weekend that there's an Ohio State football game, like, it feels like some students might be drinking beer on like front lawns and watching football. It seems like something that could happen at a Big Ten campus or two that first weekend of football, and you wonder what that's going to do to the community numbers. But if the team itself can stay healthy and not have issues, then maybe they can keep going and not have that ruin it for everyone.
Well, Kristina Johnson said that the latest was Ohio State was at like 2.2%.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentioned maybe the numbers were higher off campus. My suggestion would be, as you're testing these, if it's in the community, I believe is a 7.5% threshold. Was that correct?
I think that's right. Yeah.
And so if it starts to approach that, you need to stop what you're doing and just start testing the nerds, right? No more testing of people who socialize. You just test the nerds that don't leave the library. In fact, you go to the library. I don't know if it's open, but you just start testing people who are by themselves. That way, and if they've already tested, retest. That's fine. Just you got to get those numbers down so that we don't lose football, as long as we're doing it safely. So yes, you just got to just test the right people, or Tom, don't even test. What do you think?
A flaw in the master plan. Who could have seen this coming? Yeah, I think that they are. This is set up to be something that, if they can pull it off, it's going to be the safest way they can possibly pull it off. There are absolutely some failure points here. The fact that there are, players are sitting out for 21 days, like that's potentially a big issue for guys who, if a star player is missing 3 games, that's basically half of the regular season, just shy of half of the regular season. That's a lot. And it sounded like, from my understanding, that if that first test is positive, even if the follow-up tests are negative, that they would still miss those 21 days. Did I understand that correctly?
Uh,
I didn't hear that specifically addressed, because they said they were going to do the rapid reaction test, the instant test, and then they're going to do I think you said the PCR test, which is the like more in-depth one. I'm unclear if the follow-up test is negative, if they still have to wait that 21 days, or if it's just if they're the follow-up testing
yeah, I guess
confirms it.
maybe you just do a rubber test, and then maybe a couple more tests just to confirm the confirmation. It would be very bad if you get a negative and you can't get
Mhm.
out of it. Now we've seen before they don't want to test people out of quarantine, but I think that stuff has kind of maybe gone to the wayside for these new rules. But it is going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, and the discipline that it will take. Gene Smith, before he left the teleconference, urged the media to, hey, just remind people, try not to have big groups watching games, try to just keep in mind all of that stuff. And of course, who is he to tell us what to do? We're the media. We're going to do what we want. So, he can take his advice, and, I will gladly write 600 words telling people, wear your masks, no more groups of more than, I'd say, 3. Let's just be safe. Just roll 3 out there strong. You don't need any more than that. Um, I mean, if you are a gang in like the 70s New York City, yes, you would want at least 9, especially to represent at the entire meeting of as we saw all in the biopic of the Warriors back in the 70s. So you need more than 3 there. I don't know that you need more than 3 here. You get more than that, you're going to need 2 pizzas. It gets expensive.
Yeah, well, and I mean, what place are college students more guaranteed to gather than in classrooms? So I think we need to consider maybe how important are classes in the university setting. I
Not
mean,
very.
some scholars may disagree on this, but I think there's some argument to be made. Not that important. So I'm just saying, think about it. What if everyone just stays in just stay in your bedroom in your apartment, and just let's not chance it. We've come this far. Let's not mess it up now.
Just play Madden 95 like I did. That's all you got to
Exactly.
do. You
Exactly.
don't need to
Yeah.
go anywhere. You don't need to make friends. Your friend is the PlayStation 1 or the Sega Genesis. Worked for me. Um, so Gene Smith talked about, he said Kristina Johnson was the person who got to deliver the news to the players, and they gave her a round of applause. Ryan Day said it was emotional, just finally being able to look the players in the eyes and give them direction. And that's something that you and I have talked about with Sean Wade and Wyatt Davis, how these players need direction, and they weren't getting it. So they found some direction with the NFL. And so now the players on campus have that direction, and they can get going right away. Practice will start probably here in the near future. Gene Smith said that he expects tomorrow the announcement that the teams will be going to the 20-hour work week, which is the normal in-season work week. Right now, they're in the 12-hour type of deal. But as we were talking to Gene Smith and Kristina Johnson and Ryan Day, Gene Smith had to leave because he said he was getting a phone call from Wyatt Davis. Unfortunately, nobody asked once Gene came back the results of that phone call. I did not get it called on, or else I certainly would have done that. But so we don't know what the situation is there, at least at the time of this recording, Tom, as we're doing
Well,
this show.
you suggested earlier this week that we should do a show and just record like a marathon show until there was a decision. We may have to do that today. Sean Wade is expected to be on SportsCenter. I have seen within the hour, and that was a tweet from 19 minutes ago. Someone mentioned that in the comments as well. Thank you for mentioning that in the comments and tipping me off to that. So, yeah, so we will maybe we'll just talk about this until we get an answer on Sean Wade, because it sounds like it might not take too terribly long. So we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what those guys do, because there is certainly a case to be made that all of the things that they were coming back for in January are still in front of them, in terms of improving your NFL draft stock, in terms of winning a Big Ten championship, in terms of beating Michigan, in terms of playing for a national championship. All of those things with this schedule are on the table. Now, could some of them be removed from the table if you have big issues in the Big Ten with as restrictive as the Big Ten's protocols are? Absolutely. They absolutely could be. But if those guys, and from all indications that we've gotten as an organization, they have not done anything that would prohibit them from coming back, it seems like it's possible that one or both of them could be back, which would be an enormous, enormous boon to Ohio State. Pat Firemouth, the tight end from Penn State, I saw is opting back in. So this is not, a completely unprecedented thing. And for guys who are playing on teams that are really playing for something this year, that may be a little bit more appealing. So, obviously there are going to be people who have, family health concerns and that kind of stuff who may stay opted out. And that's obviously totally understandable. And those decisions should be respected. But yeah, all of a sudden, I think this has happened, like just barely gotten it under the wire that maybe guys who have opted out might be willing to kind of pop back in. And now that they sort of have a little bit more information.
I also think I assume they would have all been pretty careful on what they do in the interim while they're waiting for a decision, knowing that this is a possibility. I wonder, Tom, maybe Rondale Moore would opt back in after the Ohio State game. That would be, just wait a week, whatever that game is, and opt back in after Ohio State.
Well, it sounds like that if they're not playing the original schedule, then Purdue's off the schedule again. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Ryan Day was asked about Shaun Wade and Wyatt Davis, and he said both have expressed before they left, they wanted obviously to play this season out and play with their brothers and try to win a championship. And he said, whatever, they should be allowed to return. And the thing is, they are allowed to return unless they've hired agents or not even beyond that, you've taken a little bit of money for whatever. But even then, it's like, well, you can still, this is kind of a strange circumstance, but even anytime players take money from agent, if they pay it back, they can kind of regain their eligibility, maybe miss a game or two, something like that. But that's more of a punishment than this situation would just be, a completely new situation for the NCAA to have to deal with. But I don't believe it would be anything that would take all of that kind of paperwork. I think it's just guys who opted out and, hey, now I've showed up and I'm back in. And as long as their thumbprints still work on the biometric locks at the doors of the WAC, then they're allowed to opt back in. And I doubt that the spiteful managers of the buildings at Ohio State have already wiped them from the records. Oh, Wyatt Davis, you want to leave? You're gone. Your thumbprint is gone. Shaun Wade, you want to go? I'm getting rid of your thumbprint. You're going to have to, call somebody to let you in because you're not walking through my building anymore. I don't think they've gone to that level.
Probably not. Probably. My sense from listening to Ryan Day was that he would probably welcome both of them back. And if some spiteful building manager has removed them from the system, Ryan Day can probably get them re-added, is my sense. And again, I'm making some assumptions here. I want to be clear on my sourcing here. This is just me assuming, but I have a sense that if that was going to happen, that they would be open to allowing them back on the team. Yeah.
Imagine Ryan Day hey, who do I send an email to get this done? And it's like, well, you got to do this and then that. And then, it might take 4 or 5 days before somebody gets back to you. And then it's like he gets a little glimpse of what it's like to live in a real world of just waiting for stuff to get done inside of an office building. Hey, my light flickers. If we could just, we just get somebody, kind of gives me a headache because the fluorescent light just keeps flickering. Oh, yeah, we'll put in a ticket. And Ryan Day is like, a ticket? Let's put in a ticket. No. I need Shaun Wade. I need Wyatt Davis's thumbprints back in the system. Oh, don't worry. We'll put in a ticket. And then, of course, Ryan Day is like, you know what? I miss the NFL. And so, but now maybe he's got the college back. We can get the thumbprints back. He'll get his players back. Maybe he'll just be too distracted by scheduling practice and things like that. And he seemed pretty upbeat today, which has been a change. for everybody over the last few 6 weeks or so. And I guess it's just good that everybody is starting to revert to positivity, Tom.
Yeah, stay as Jim Harbaugh, and I'm going to quote Jim Harbaugh in a positive way here. Jim Harbaugh said, "Stay positive, test negative." It seems like a good life motto. That seems like a good way to live the next few months. But yeah, no, this is like one of the more incredible comebacks you've seen, because this was like officially the guy who's in charge of the league pronounced this season dead, 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 will not be revisited. And here we are. It has been revisited. Hey, there's a season now, and it's not exactly what you would have wanted necessarily or expected, but as far as these things go, that's not too bad.
You know what it also means? We're never going to take Kevin Warren's first answer again. Like if we don't like it, it's like, oh, we're just going to put up a fight and we'll get this changed. And now we are a spoiled child who always gets its way. And so, you did this. Kevin Warren did this, and the presidents did this, and now they have to bear with this problem child that they have created. And it'll be fun to bother them that way. No fans in.
Sometimes it's the parents' fault. Just going to throw that out there. Sometimes it's crappy parents.
There you go.
You can take that as an analogy or just a general statement. But yeah, that when you lay it out there as an absolute and you don't communicate anything, and even today when you're asked about the poor communication, you just talk about how it just shows the passion of it. Well, okay, if you're doing a crappy job as a parent and you just say, well, that just shows the passion of my children when they scream at me and tell me I'm an idiot. Well, guess what that's going to encourage? More screaming. Good luck.
Yeah. Kevin Warren was asked about the criticism he has received and how it feels to be moving towards football again. And his answer was, I understand what it takes to be in these roles, and I try to understand what it takes to be a leader. It's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
Tom?
I can think of at least one person it probably isn't for. Yeah, that was there were only a couple things that I had like 100% expectation on. Number one was some of the first people who are going to get called on to ask questions during the press conference. Mm-hmm. Yeah, was not real surprised about that. Was not real surprised that it took a local person to ask the question, an Ohio State media member to ask the question. So hashtag talk about your crappy communication.
Mm-hmm.
That was that was a needed question, and one of the more interesting questions that we got there. And yeah, also not surprising that there was just a complete non-answer on that, just a total word salad. I came away from that with absolute certainty that the just complete, just throw it against the wall and see what sticks statement that they put out. Like, oh no, Kevin Warren may have actually written that himself, because that was that all the non-answers, all of the that may have come straight from him.
Yeah, and that came right at the end. That was from Doug Maurice, Cleveland.com, as I was getting ready to switch to the OSU presser because the two teleconferences were happening at the same time because of scheduling. And I was then I came back here and I wanted to talk about it, and I was looking for any quotes that I wrote down that Kevin Warren said. And no, as you said, it was word salad. There was nothing worth quoting. His answer was basically he just wanted to make sure that when he had things to communicate, they would communicate it. And he wakes up every day to be as positive as he possibly can. Okay, is this an infomercial? Are you trying to sell us like a Bowflex or something?
Mm-hmm.
They have learned things over the past 40 days, and they'll get better. Oh, one day we'll look back and be proud of how far we've come and what we've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like in terms of how far we've come, maybe like how high we've gotten out of this well we've dug ourselves. Like we're almost at the top. Look how far away the bottom is.
Yes, the last 6 weeks have definitely been dig up stupid, and and now the Big Ten has sort of gotten its head out from above the underground level. That's good. Speaking of people who should statements from people who should have nothing to do with the Big Ten, this from Rutgers today. I'm just going to read it. I just want you to interpret the tone of this statement. On a day when the Ohio State Athletic Department, this is not me reading the statement yet. The official, if you go to the Ohio State website and you click on schedules, There is photos of Brutus smiling, and it just says September 16th, Big Ten Big Ten, all across the Big Ten, football is back. Okay. This from Rutgers. The presidents and chancellors of the Big Ten were presented with a proposal by the medical subcommittee of its return to the competition task force that was sufficiently compelling that conference members now support a plan to begin playing football on October 24th. The approved plan relies on daily rapid antigen testing of all athletes and other persons associated with each football program, on adherence to strict internal health protocols, and on continual assessments of health conditions for each team and the health conditions of its broader university community. This is an approach that recognizes changing local health conditions, improvements in access to near instantaneous antigen testing, and an evolving understanding of effective health protocols. Assessments of the conditions at Rutgers, as well as those for each opponent, will be made regarding all upcoming games. Individual universities may suspend the return to competition on a week-to-week basis if they or their scheduled opponents are experiencing significant negative changes among players and staff or within the broader university community. The Rutgers University Division of Intercollegiate Athletics will abide by these protocols and conditions and will rely on the input of the university's medical professionals to ensure the health and safety of everyone involved in return to intercollegiate competition this semester. Boy, I mean, I don't know if you could hear all the exclamation points in that statement and all the excitement. It was like, well, yeah, the rest of the HOA says we have to play, so I guess we have to play. So I guess, I mean, all right. So Rutgers, exactly as excited to watch Rutgers football as you are this season.
It reads like a Wikipedia entry of what is a Wikipedia entry.
not one of those Wikipedia entries that someone wrote about themselves. Like you can very definitely tell someone wrote about themselves. Like this is an actuary wrote this about a topic they don't particularly care about. And yeah, so boy, that's
hey,
yeah, exciting.
I can't wait to watch Rutgers. I do see a Purdue coach, Jeff Brom, said he'll look into seeing if Rondale Moore is interested in opting back in. Oh, I bet he will. I bet he will look into that. I bet he will. Call up Rondale Moore and say, Rondale, hey, Coach Brom here. Hey, so what you doing? You up? And of course, Rondale will be like, it's like 1:30 in the afternoon. Yes, I'm up. What is it? What can I do for you? And it's like, well, if you wanted to take that car back to the dealership and maybe come back and play for us. And yeah, I'm sure he's going to call Rondale, and we'll see how that goes. I would love to see him back. I mean, he was one of the guys that we've talked about forever. Like, we want to watch him because he's one of the more entertaining players to watch in the nation. We didn't get to see him last year because he was hurt. But do you expect him back, Tom?
I would guess not. I mean, he's been out long enough that I think the guys who opted out very recently, I think, are the guys who I think there's a decent chance. I mean, this is something we've talked about in the context of some of these guys opting out recently, is the longer you've been away from it, the longer you've been out of it, the harder it is to get back in. You know, I mean, if Wyatt Davis was practicing with Ohio State a week ago, that's a lot easier to just hop right back in than if you dropped out in August, you haven't been around anyone, you've been doing your own thing, you've been living at home, you've been hanging out with your friends, your family, whatever. I mean, the less time you've been away, the more likely it is that you're going to come back, I think, is kind of a good broad look at it. So like Micah Parsons, I mean, Pat Firemouth is back for Penn State. I don't know that I'd count on Micah Parsons coming back, because Micah Parsons was out in like August, and he was one of the first people to opt out. So I think that in general, that's probably going to be a decent barometer to use, is how long has this person actually been out before, you know, since they initially announced it. And it's been a while for Rondale Moore. And, you know, Rondale Moore is not playing for a national championship this year either. I mean, you certainly could, another year of film and him being healthy, like, sure, that would probably help his NFL draft stock quite a bit. But, you know, that's asking, you know, that may be asking a lot.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned being away from the team. That's where Shaun Wade is now, where he's been for a while. He is a Ohio State graduate. So like he has reached certain goals, and the longer you are away, it's just easier to stay away. Wyatt Davis, Gene Smith mentioned he's out in California right now, but I don't believe he's been out there very long, which would make it more likely. I don't want to weigh one against the other, We'll see what happens with them. Any news? I've got SportsCenter up here. I'm doing a Twitter search on Shaun Wade to see if there's any news about when he would be on, and I got nothing, Tom.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. Wanted to read this tweet for David Hookstead, who is
Oh yes.
someone who has been he's somehow affiliated with Wisconsin, but he's not actually a Wisconsin writer. I've spent the past 188 days fighting to save Big Ten football. Today, we accomplished the mission. Much like the Osama bin Laden raid or D-Day, you never know when your number will be called to serve. All you hope for is to execute your job and the mission. We did just that. My sarcasm meter is right at 50-50 on this one. I think it's a joke. If not, I have great news for Christine Brennan, who no longer has the worst tweet of the day. But I think that's a joke. But
it really annoys me when somebody tries to steal take the glory of what other people have done for themselves. This person saying that they have brought Big Ten football back and they have worked to bring it back. That's really the lowest form of person who does that. I, of course, was joking when I did it. This person, whether they are joking or not, whomever does it, just total classlessness. I, of course, said it from a happy place because today is a happy day. So I see Randy Wade, Sean's father, saying, yeah, maybe he could be coming back. Tom, I don't want to say I am sick of maybes right now. I'm pretty sick of maybes right now, but I do see a SportsCenter coming up in 5 minutes. Next steps after opting out. I don't know what that means. But will this be the last maybe of the year? Maybe Shaun Wade, maybe, or then Wyatt Davis, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, could be. Maybe. There's. I mean, this whole year is maybes. This whole year is just what's going to happen with these teams. What's going to happen with individual players? What's the college football playoff? How is the college football playoff committee going to weigh teams that are missing players, or if a team is going to be missing players due to positive COVID tests for the playoff, will that impact what they're doing for in terms of how they select teams? Like when Kenyon Martin from Cincinnati broke his leg 20 years ago, right before the NCAA tournament, they went from a number 1 seed down to like a low 2 or maybe 3 seed because they were not going to have the best players. All of a sudden they weren't that same team. So is that going to be how the playoff committee evaluates teams this year? If someone is missing their starting quarterback and that person's going to miss the semifinal, is that going to change how they rate players or rate teams? And the answer to that is maybe. So we'll have to see on that. It's going to be. I mean, there are so many interesting things. If you could have the answer to one question this year, not like who's going to win the national championship, but the answer to one question this year, let's just limit it to the Big Ten. What would that question be?
Probably will Ohio State play 9 games? Like, will they get all 9 games in? Because if I get that answer, then I feel pretty good. Although, I guess it also depends on, will Justin Fields play in all 9 games? That would probably be the actual answer. Then by including the all 9 games, I get the second question in there for free. Because Ohio State could play all 9 games, and that doesn't necessarily give you an answer on how the season goes. But if Justin Fields plays all 9 games, I think I've got a pretty good feeling on how it went or how it will go.
Yeah, that's a pretty good twofer there. I would be interested to know, percentage of first half snaps that Justin Fields takes for the Buckeyes this year. That might be a good one that will tell you an awful lot. Yeah, I think that if Ohio State plays 9 games, I think it's going to be very difficult to keep them out of the college football playoff, assuming you don't have like a real stupid loss. And this is something I wrote about on Wednesday morning at Buckeye Scoop, was this is going to be a year where you've got a bunch of crazy crap happening. I mean, you look at the Sun Belt is 3-0 against the Big 12. They've only played 3 games. They've won them all. This is going to be a year where you've got some crazy results just because either teams have not had good practices or normal practices, or they are shorthanded on people or whatever. Like this is going to be a year where you've got all sorts of crazy off the wall kind of results with upsets, with teams showing up flat. I mean, you have seen that with Ohio State in recent years. Just, I think this is going to be a year where you have a bunch of Purdue beats Ohio State by 4 touchdowns type of games. Purdue and Ohio State sounds like not going to play this year, so it's not going to be Purdue beating Ohio State. But, Illinois beats Penn State by 3 touchdowns, or just like, you're going to have some weird stuff this year. And I think it's going to be very hard to account for that, because it's going to be very easy to spin it as, well, Alabama only lost to South Carolina because they didn't have 3 of their starting offensive players, or that, Georgia wouldn't have lost to Tennessee if their starting quarterback hadn't had COVID. So really, can you count it against them? And there's a lot that we don't know about how they're going to account for all of that stuff. There's a lot of uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to be the fallout from that initial batch of uncertainty. So it's going to be a real interesting season. But you know what? There's a season. We get to cover a season. I can't believe it. It's great.
Well, and the idea that 9 games won't be enough. I mean, let's not forget, Clemson played the Citadel, or they are playing the Citadel. They're playing an ACC schedule, which is not all that great, even though a surprisingly high number of ACC teams are ranked right now. But of course, that's not through their own doing. That's through the Big Ten's doing, and the Pac-12's doing, and even the MAC's doing. Let's be honest. But so there are areas where Ohio State can catch up with other programs, and you're not going to have 3 teams from the SEC in the playoffs. You're probably looking at 1 team from each conference, because let's not forget, you've got Gary Barta, the AD of Iowa, is the head of the CFP committee this year. So he's got the ear of the Big Ten Conference, and they've got his. And so there is that back and forth to keep things in play for the Big Ten. I am waiting for the moment. If Ohio State loses, you are going to see such a celebration of national media laughing at Ohio State about, oh, I thought you came back, you wanted a championship, and now look, how's your championship now?
Yeah, this is going to be. I mean, everyone has really dug themselves in a nice little foxhole on whatever plot of land they have chosen to camp on for the last few months. So yeah, I think everyone is pretty much dug in, and everyone has determined who their good guys and their bad guys are this year, and all of that. So yeah, it'll be real interesting to watch the narratives develop over the course of the year. And is this an inspiring story, or is this a story of man's hubris and foolhardy attempts to overcome nature and all of that? It's yes. I don't need to tell you that we're living in stupid times. That's
No.
okay. You probably already know that. But yeah, I mean, we get football. We have football to help us get through these stupid times now. I just saw that Sean Wade is coming up next on SportsCenter, so we might as well just stay on and.
Well, I see Randy is talking now on SportsCenter.
Okay.
I don't know. Do we want to turn the sound on?
I would guess that we will not have. We will.
This is gonna make for awesome podcast. By the way, maybe we just we'll freeze it now, and edit this part out. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, according to Twitter.com, he is thinking about returning to Ohio State after today's decision, but quote, "We have a lot of things going on." So there you go. So I mean, I think I would absolutely not have expected a definitely opting out decision today. There's a possibility that there was an opt back in decision today, but I mean, again, Ryan Day basically said he was going to talk to these guys over the next day or two and sort of figure it out. And they have a little bit of time. You've got 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks now before the start of a game week. So you've got some time to sort of figure it out. And once you opt back in and fly back to campus, like, okay, you'll have to go through the testing protocols and all that kind of stuff. Daily rapid testing sounds like it's not going to start until September 30th. So you got a little bit of time to get everyone back on campus and sort of get everyone back settled into your new protocols and your new bubble, or whatever form of a bubble kind of thing you're going to try and do, and all of that.
Yeah, and there will be some bubbling. And I think Gene Smith or Ryan Day even said, I think Gene Smith said that Ohio State is pretty much self bubbled. The players have been so self disciplined, they've created a self bubble. I do have this sense from Sean Wade that he kind of felt the season coming because that was the trend that was happening. And he wanted to turn pro. And if you wait until after the season has been announced, now it's too late. And so I wonder if this was a thing where he was like, I maybe kind of realized I made a bad, not a bad decision, but I could have gone pro last year and it wouldn't have hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And there was plenty of that talking from Draft Next and people like that. And they're still talking like he's the number one corner, one of the number one corners and top 15 pick. And I think as you're reading all of that, while there is no season, you start to that becomes part of your mentality and it becomes definite in your mind because you know you're going to turn out in the combine and the workouts and all of that. And so you'll prove everybody right. And so it's just, you know what, let's do this now while it's an acceptable decision because it becomes much less acceptable once the season gets going. Now, I haven't talked to Sean about that. I haven't talked to Randy. I don't know that they either would even confirm that anyway because it's kind of it doesn't necessarily put the player in the best light. I just wonder how much of that is there in terms of, you know what, this is what I want to do. And it would make for a better decision if I did it now. And I see Sean about to come on there as well and probably just maybe blow me out of the water in what I said.
I mean, I can understand certainly the frustration that he probably felt where he probably could have been at least a low first round, early second round pick after last year. And I think if you had it to do all over again, given the uncertainty, given everything that we know now, like, yeah, you'd rather be making NFL money right now than dealing with all the uncertainty that they've dealt with the last 9 months. Obviously, none of the things that are going into that that being the case right now were things that anyone was really thinking about or knew about, but at the time he was making that decision last fall or last spring. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you can make a very compelling case for him to come back. Again, everything that they have in front of them, everything, all of his goals that the reasons he came back, wanting to come back to improve his draft stock, wanting to get a year of being, an outside corner on film to kind of prove that to the NFL folks, wanting to beat Michigan, wanting to win the Big Ten, wanting to play for a national championship. All of those things are now in front of him. Like those are options that are back on the table in a way they were not last year. So all of that is stuff that he can still accomplish. So if he changes his mind and comes back, then absolutely, I think there's a very, very easy logical case to be made there. I mean, we've heard NFL GMs say if they have guys who are not playing this fall versus guys who are playing this fall, they're going to, and in at least a tiebreaker sense, they're going to side with the guys who have more recent film, which makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense. And so I think there's an argument to be made for him coming back, but, this is not someone who is going to, this is the difference between being undrafted and drafted. He's going to be drafted next year no matter what. So if he ends up deciding not to, I think it would be hard to be upset with the Wade family right now with everything the Wades, Randy and his family have all done to, get the Big Ten to the point where they are right now. It is unquestionable that he was one of the leading forces and one of the leading voices in this and making this happen. And, he was called pushy and basically told he was an idiot for trying to do it. And what, this is a huge waste of time. And why are you doing this? And, history has proven him right. He has been, he was the one who was saying, yes, they can play a season this year. It's still possible to play a season at a time when the Big Ten was saying, no, not possible. Won't be revisited. So no matter what Sean Wade ends up doing, I think Ohio State fans probably should be extremely grateful to the Wade family and for everything that they did this year. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up landing on this because I could really see a compelling case either way. But
I
don't.
see.
Yeah, go ahead.
He said on SportsCenter, "I haven't decided anything." This is Sean. I haven't decided anything. I just want to enjoy my birthday.
Mm.
Um, so we'll find out later, I guess,
And
for sure.
has an agent lined up but hasn't signed anything. That's an
Right.
important. I mean, that's an important distinction there. That he's not he that would still make him eligible to return without any real sort of complications. So
Yeah, and
you know,
I think Randy Wade, I'm not totally convinced we have a season without that initial, like, I'm going to be at the Big Ten
nope,
headquarters
yeah,
and let's get this started. And so he does deserve a lot of credit for that. And I go back to, the criticism that he received. Like Pat Forty has been a critic throughout this, and Pat Forty has two, a son and a daughter who are swimmers, very good collegiate swimmers. Both had their seasons ended, and I wonder if there's spite, jealousy, that sort of thing, that he accepted that his children's seasons were over, and that I guess everybody else should just accept it for their own kids as well. And the fact that football parents didn't accept it, I don't know if that irks him, that makes him angry. Like I said, there's some jealousy that they were able to do what he didn't have an opportunity or chose not to do back then in March or whatever. I don't think you had necessarily had a lot of advocates for continuing sports at that point because things were so new. But there just does seem there's some, I think, fatherly bitterness combined with the natural columnist
mm-hmm,
bitterness
mm-hmm.
in all of this, pointed at parents who now will get to see their children play, when in fact he didn't get that same opportunity this year. So I think maybe that's one aspect of some of that criticism, at least from one person. We know the reason there's criticism from other people, and as you said, it's because of the hole in their back where the Big Ten's hand goes.
And
I said back.
I was wondering where that sentence was going, but you found it. Good job. You found the safe landing spot. Well done there. Yeah, it's this is going to be something that I think this has been a very instructive few weeks in terms of understanding how the media works for people. I think that's been probably I think we've probably all learned a lot. Some of us maybe knew it beforehand, but we've all, let's just speak broadly, say we all learned a lot the last couple of weeks, and how the media works, and perhaps it will help us all take a more critical view of things moving forward. And that something is, I think there's definitely a case to be made that we've all learned something about leadership, and that sometimes leaders say things when it is just, this is the convenient thing to say, and people are not necessarily super excited about telling you that perhaps we have made a mistake, perhaps, because you can't look at the August decision and say, no, they were correct to cancel it, and say there was no chance to revisit it, because of course there was. History has proven that this was the incorrect decision. And guess what? Go back and listen to our show from Tuesday, August 11th, and listen to what we're saying about, hey, not that they need to play right now, just, hey, stuff changes. This is stupid to do this right now because stuff can change. You can't have a definite right now in a time when there's so much uncertainty and so much is changing so quickly and all of that. And then, lo and behold, no one said, hey, this was stupid that we canceled on August 11th. What they did say is, well, a lot of things have changed, and the rapid test has changed everything. Well, okay, that's fine. If that was literally weeks away, why did you cancel it back then? So anyway, I would love to hear the Kevin Warren inspirational quote about leadership again, if you've got it, and what it takes to be a leader. Because in these trying times of ours,
Mm-hmm.
I think to be led, maybe this would be a great way to close out today's show.
Yes.
Just truly inspirational words about leadership. Like those quote of the day calendars or whatever. Inspirational quote of the day. I think this would be a great way to close out today's show. Just Kevin Warren's inspiring words on leadership, because look at how smoothly his leadership has gone. Do you have it in front of you?
I'm scrolling for it. I will. Yes. Kevin Warren on leadership, receiving criticism, and yada yada yada. I understand what it takes to be in these roles, and I try to understand what it takes to be a leader. it's not for everyone. So
Mm.
keep that in mind throughout these coming months and weeks as we all get to experience Big Ten football eventually in 5 weeks, Tom. It's here, but not quite. We do have plenty of time to then also preview the season.
Yeah, we'll have another show this week. I'm guessing whenever they roll out a schedule, we can have a schedule release show, and then I mean, 5 weeks. That's like a couple positional preview shows every week, and boom, season's
We'll
here.
be talking to coaches, players,
Yeah,
probably starting next week. We they snuck Ryan Day in on us today. I would assume we'll get him for real here, maybe even this week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the schedule drop. We'll have something on that. Probably predict like a 7-2 type season for the Buckeyes and see how that goes. So I want to thank you all for joining us on the Zoom call. Thank you all for listening, for watching. Keep it tuned at BuckeyeScoop.com. And if you are not yet a member, even though I don't know why you wouldn't be, now would be a great time to check it out. Try 1 month, see how you like it. I bet it's going to be a pretty good month. And then the month after that, the second month of your sign up, if you go month by month, we'd actually have football. So there will be even more stuff then. So thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you guys later.